So kind of off the cuff with it, I guess, but yeah, um, here's this, I guess. I guess I'll just jump right in. Um, so me, background, um, I'm from San Diego. I started rap when I was 14. I'm 28. And throughout those 14 years of music making, just starting with rapping and then producing very early on as well, um, it really all culminated to this project called Ultra, which began in 2017. I released 15 songs on my 21st birthday in this cartoonish style, pop culture lyrics, nerdcore, released 15 songs in that style in on my 21st birthday um, in 2017. 2018, less than a year later, released 15 more songs, and I've just been adding songs one by one since. And that was the vision from early when I put those first 15 songs out. It wasn't here's an album of 15 songs. It's here's the first 15 songs of something that I plan to continuously grow for as long as I'm able to continue it. And for anyone listening, watching, unfamiliar, it runs a very broad but still kind of specific, curated gamut, mainly raps, poetry. There's like an album's worth. So it's at a point now where it sits currently at 165 songs. It's just over 7 hours of music, just regularly adding things since then. And it's no plans of stopping. Then in the content of it is it's it's raps, it's poetry. There's a whole album's worth of me doing covers of Broadway songs. Just as passionate as I am about musical theater, the main theme of it is raps, though, as a rapper first and foremost. And starting around lockdown 2020, I started really diving deep into science and math and things like that. Started teaching myself those kinds of concepts, trying to incorporate them in my raps. From beginnings of just nerdy pop culture things, it was like kind of autodidactic, proper STEM nerdiness in the past, like, say, 5 years. And that's how me and Alex met, which is why I'm like in this call in the first place. We just kind of realized we were on the same like wavelength, so to speak, with like our approach to being more upper um, division academically with the raps. And he is one of few collaborators that I've had in my career, I guess. Um, as someone who produces and writes everything, I don't collaborate very often. But if I find someone who I do collaborate with and it works, then it works. And it has definitely been fruitful with Alex with things like the Resonance collab where um, he fun fact like wrote the whole like verse and recorded all the vocals and then sent it to me and I built the beat around it. So that was like a his vocal thing and then my production like afterwards, which was a fun little like challenge. It's featured on the MIT physics department website. That was cool. And also this song called Fast Amp, which was our submission for MITverses before. Um, and that was me and him trading verses and all that. So that's the explanation for why I'm even like here in the first place. It's through my friendship with Alex, which is I'm super thankful for. Um, yeah. Oh, and just as like for anybody watching unfamiliar, I was like I look, you forgot what the next slide was, but I just wanted to include like lyrics just as examples of like stuff that I've written because there's like, hey, check out my music, but while I got you here, um, just a small selection of lyrics, things like the philosopher king's memory palace only serves to echo pines for caves Lascaux and rosebud shadow dances. I wrote that like 4 years ago, touching on things like Plato's allegory of the cave, caves of Lascaux, cave paintings, Citizen Kane, Rosebud, memory palace technique, like kind of playing around with those things and meshing them into something. Um, Ask my growingly loftier neurophysiological ceiling why I groan involuntary at those unqualified for thought, apotheosizing feelings. Um, and there's a lot to analyze at the level of like vowel consonant play, but the point of that, the sentiment, is something I'll get to later, actually. Um, from a song called Trash Pickup in 2022. Quasi liturgical quoth adonlite clergyman nodded omni colorable, untie our culprit Reidemeister's circular. That was the result of a few hours of research into knot theory, trying to teach myself that from scratch. Just like surfing Wikipedia pages of things like tricolorability and Reidemeister moves, and trying to find some sort of metaphor scheme to glean out of that. And that was the result. That was a few years ago. Shepherd the interdependent into the deep end, the deafening defend. The present was present, the presence precinct. Like I've been having a lot of fun with like homophones and stuff like that. Present, time, present, presence, space, area, precinct. Like area, like a police precinct, precinct, presynchronized. Um, that was last year, I guess. Um, and then Andromeda wide, the cosmorotic arrives alive for a fairness metascience, an inter-object Americanized, inhaled in Gestalt. That's kind of where I'm at now. Cosmoerotic is not my term; it's from a book. Just gonna that's at the ready. First principle, first value is it. Uh, um, that's from a song that I put out 2 days ago. Angela, like before, like it just mentioned, like the car. That's the first song I recorded in the car. That was 2 days ago. That's the first verse I recorded in the car. That's on SoundCloud. Um, that happened earlier this week. So yeah, just that's where I'm at lyrically. Um, but what I wanted to focus on, because there's a lot to discuss, at the level of wordplay and all, but I feel like as someone who's primarily an artist, like first, I identify myself as an artist and have for years now, before anything, like in my life, like I am an artist. And as much as there is to talk about, and I've geared this kind of like, piece like more so towards action to somebody just trying to just beginning to figure things out. And if there's anything I can impart in my years of artistry, it's cultivating a sense of embodiment, which is to say that there's a lot to talk about and to think about and all that. For me, it all has to be in service of eventually taking action. You think and think and think until you figure out what you need to do, and then you do it. And it's easier said than done, like by definition, like that's the whole point, that it's a trans-dimensional endeavor to go from thinking to doing. And you can't brain your way out of a body problem, basically. And I have this like picture here as like these are from paintings from an artist, Mark Rothko. He's kind of known for having these really seemingly simplistic kind of postmodernist paintings. And I feel like when people think of that kind of art, there's this critique you could raise of, oh, I could have done that. That's super simple. You just, or Jackson Pollock, just splatter paint on a canvas. Oh, I could have done that. That's simple. That doesn't take any sort of, rigor. It's not like difficult. I could have done that easily. The counter argument to raise to that, one of a few, is then why didn't you? That's a very like, that's a point to bring up to anybody raising that. It's like, that's what differentiates the artist. They actually did it. Anybody could have done it. The artist actually did it. And if there's anything that I can try and inspire, it's actually doing something. And tangibly, because, if there's anything I can say that might get someone in a place where that's more likely to happen, I've learned to recognize the recursion of thoughts as an indicator that I should do something. Like once I realize, and this is like a metacognitive step up that has to occur, where you like see above and recognize your own thoughts, realize that you're having the same thought again, And once you realize that, you go, oh, I don't want that. I want a new thought. And the way to do that is by doing something. To it, naturally following that logically is like a why question of like, why should I do this thing? Um, and trying to answer that question gets you back into thinking mode, and it doesn't get you doing things. It's totally human to try and think of a reason why you should do something and think of a bunch of reasons why you should and why you shouldn't. For me, the satisfactory reason, and it's about enoughness, being satisfied with an answer, because it's the answer that gets you to do something. Why am I going to do this thing right now? Because I need to expand my horizons. I've recognized that I've reached the limit of my cognition at the moment, and I need to expand it, and I do that by doing something. And then I do it. For example, lest I recur, I'm just going to take some action right now. Go to the next slide and kind of shift tax a little bit. Angela, I mentioned this like before, and I thought I should delineate it a little bit more. This like distinction that I have, this framework between like sculpting and painting, that I feel could help somebody just beginning to explore art and stuff, particularly sculpting over painting, because I feel it's kind of like, in this analogy, painting is like writing and sculpting is like editing, where we've all been in a space where you open up a blank document and it's just blank, and you kind of have to have like what is the first thing that I'm going to put down here. Um, and it leads to kind of, analysis paralysis, because there's all these things that you could do, and you start asking yourself, what am I going to do? And then you think and think and think, and then you don't do anything, because painting and writing are both like additive processes, whereas sculpting and editing are like subtractive ones, where you take things away. That's the action that you take. In a painting kind of mindset, it's like, what action I'm going to take. There are all these things I could do. Subtraction, it's like, take stuff away, minimize, simplify it. That's the action, and all you need to do is simplify and simplify and simplify, and the action thing gets sorted. It's simple. The notion that the artwork is pre-installed, like the idea that if you're looking at a blank canvas, there's nothing there. If you're looking at a block of marble, the sculpture is kind of in the marble already. You just kind of have to like take stuff away, and it's there. Like, it's already in there. You just have to like discover it. It's zooming it out. Like, the notion of invention, like the idea that you would create something just from scratch, out of thin air, versus the notion of discovery of something, which is something that's like out there in the world, and you just have to go and find it. It's already there. You just have to like do something in order to see it. It exists already. Like, that kind of like takes away all the like complexities of what could it be. It's like, it's there. Just go and look for it. The mantra for me has kind of become, make the mess and clean it after. To kind of go back to earlier, it's like, why should I do this thing right now? It's because I need more marble. Like, I need more material to work with. That's the whole like thing of just write, because it's the thing to do. Writing is doing, just do it. And then afterwards, you can think about how to edit it and all that, because then it becomes like a binary decision. It's not, what word should I use here? It's, should I change this word to something else? Or, it simplifies from there on. So I hope that like illuminates that a little bit more. More so just, yeah, like subtracting over adding for the sake of simplicity for somebody just starting out. Make the mess and then clean it up after. So, as like a final takeaway, like if there's any sort of anything that I would want to, if I haven't emphasized it enough, I don't feel like it's something that I could underemphasize, that all of this talking and thinking, like, it has to be in service of action. Another kind of mantra is like, you fail big, you fail fast, and you fail freely, because the thing about art is that it's one thing to take a risk in like life with like a relationship or like a profession or something, and the stakes are very high. And you if it doesn't work out, then there are very serious detrimental consequences. And so it's like if you open up a canvas and just splatter paint on it, there's no like wrong, like what's the worst that could happen though, actually? Like I remember like liking to singing as well. I remember this vocal teacher like giving this advice of like if you're a singer, right? What's the worst thing that could happen for you as a singer? It's like you just sing bad. It just is kind of awkward that you don't do it right, which means you can just go like all the way. That's the worst that could happen. So I feel like there's value in viewing art as the purest playground where you can explore, because there are lots of areas in life where you can't do that without facing major consequences. Art, you can do that just totally freely. You don't have to think about what could go wrong. It's a playground. So just do whatever you want. And again, emphasize on like do it. So it feels like I'm like straitjacketed with the way that I talk about these things sometimes, because all of this is supposed to be like I'm just trying my absolute hardest to get like people to like do something. Like we can talk about it and think about it, but the main more of the story is like it has to add up to action. And that's not up to me. I try my hardest to communicate what I can. Now it's up to, whoever is listening to take whatever action they feel is necessary. And that's all I got. I kind of included some like for questions, like like places we could go from here. I mean, like we could like revisit any of the slides. I didn't talk too much about myself. Like I kind of geared it again towards more like an advice kind of guidance thing. I could go more into my own personal history. I've also prided myself a lot on my ability to differentiate myself like stylistically. So if there's any sort of like I could impart a lot on the topic of how to individuate yourself aesthetically from
Mm.
people, claiming an entire color, etc. But that's just ideas for where we could take the conversation from here.